yeah, I guess, yeah, it happened to do that, but yeah.
You're just a genius. You just,
I'm just a genius.
you're just a casual genius.
Casually a genius.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Paint. Today we have Roxy Peroxyde with us. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for
Hello.
having me.
Thank you for being with us. I'm super excited to talk to you today. I feel like your work is such a beautiful combination of contemporary and also, I want to say traditional composition, but classical pieces. So I'm very interested to talk about your methods. So we'll just jump right in
Yes,
to
I'm ready.
how you come up with your ideas. Do you sketch a lot?
I absolutely do not sketch. And I lost all my drawing skills somehow. Like I tried the other day, I went to London and I went to a museum and just like for fun to see like if I still had it. And then I just stood in front of like a statue and I like tried and I completely lost that skill. So I do not really sketch that much. I don't really know how to make marks with a pen. I really just go in with the paint. And basically, no, but to come up with my ideas, basically, I do not sketch. The process is entirely done either prior shooting my reference photo, like the concepts, or while I'm shooting. So I'll have the model there and then I'm just gonna shoot until ideas come, and then I'll switch things around, like throw in a different jacket, a different idea, and then from there I'm shooting, and the painting is constructed after with the photos.
Do you bring a lot of accessories or do you do a bit of a collage digitally after?
The realer it is in photography, the better it renders. So I rarely use collage to change anything for the clothing, the styling, the hair, makeup, whatever. I only use the collage for like the background, basically, or to add something that I can't have, like if there were to be like a snake or something, then I would like use a collage. But no, otherwise I try to keep it as as close to possible as the photography.
When you have your image and you choose the image you're going to work on, what's your next step? I assume you're just prepping your surface, you're prepping your canvas.
Yeah.
What's your favorite surface to paint on? Do you like canvas? Do you like board?
Okay,
I've
so
seen that you paint your edges, so I assume you're doing gallery style panel of some sort.
yeah, but I used to paint on wood, and I just stopped for some reason. I don't know. I didn't like it as much as canvas. And I switched to canvas, and it's also way cheaper. So maybe that's why at some point, like I had a lot of volume to be producing, and then I just switched to canvas. Um, and now I'm doing for the first time linen. So
Mhm.
we'll see how that goes. I have a triptych I need to be doing. It's a commission, so I won't necessarily post anything about it. But yeah, so I'm gonna start working with linen and see
Nice.
how it
Yeah,
goes.
linen is
Yeah,
very flat. It's a very smooth surface. Do you usually re-prep your surface when you purchase
yeah,
it? Do you give it another layer of
yeah,
something?
yeah, yeah. Even on canvas, even if it's already like prepped and gessoed, I'll gesso it like another time. I'll put gesso with either blue or green or purple, depending, and then I'll gesso it. Then I'll sand it. Thanks to you, by the way, because I think I learned that trick from you. Because my surfaces were very, very bumpy before, and now I just sand it quickly, and it makes it like way, way, way smoother.
Do you have a
So
favorite brand of gesso?
I don't, I don't. I just use whatever is at Omar Dessa.
Yes.
And I think it's Liquitex actually. I'm using Liquitex.
Yeah, I think the Cerecells, I think their main brand of gesso is Liquitex.
Yeah. And
They
they also
probably
have
carry
the
other.
transparent gesso, which I use after I sketch. Because I
Uh,
use the projector. Yeah, I use the projector to just like do the rough lines, and then I'll gesso it again with transparent gesso. So I put about like 2 extra layers of gesso.
It helps so much, especially when you work with
Yeah.
oil, or I guess acrylic as well, because it fixes your sketch onto the
Yeah.
canvas, right? And then it doesn't
I
move.
learned that I learned that from you too,
Oh,
actually.
oh my God, you're
I
so
did
cute.
the sanding, like, yeah. Ooh.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
so
very, yeah, you get a lot of, like, you get a lot of content that like is informative. I really appreciate that
you're so sweet.
about your presence online.
Oh, thank you. I try to, reveal all my secrets. That's also
Hmm.
why I wanted to do this podcast, because I feel like it's nice to share with other artists.
Yeah.
And, if someone picks up something that's useful in their practice, that's great. But after a while, I felt like I revealed all my secrets if people are looking
Yeah.
for them. So I wanted to meet with other artists so I can learn their
To see.
secrets, and maybe I learn
Yeah.
as well,
I
right?
feel like I don't create that type of content because I'm like, nobody asked me, like, what am I like? I feel like I would be like oversharing. But like, if you get in my DMs and ask me anything, I'll like answer like immediately.
But it's a fine line between telling everything all the time and become an instructor of a teacher of technique, and also being an artist online. So
Yeah.
I like this podcast for me is a great avenue to actually share that behind the scene content, which is not necessarily what I will show on my traditional social media, which is more the
Yeah.
forefront, like the finished pieces, a bit
Yeah.
of the making of, but it's also for more of the collector than the aspiring
Hmm.
artist or emerging artist.
Hmm.
Um, so I had a question, which is, do you prefer your surface to be really smooth or heavily textured? But I guess you
The
want a
smoother,
smooth.
the better. Yeah. Because I
Okay.
paint in very, very thin layers. So like I don't use my surfaces are very, very flat.
And I went through your social media content in the past, and I was trying to kind of look at how you built your pieces. I see that you do a lot of gray and purple base. Is that still the case?
Blue, green, gray. I've never used any kind of like warm tone for base. I don't know why. I feel like I like the because the skin tone that I blend is normally very, very warm already. So to have the contrast between cold and warm is kind of cool. But yeah, and I try to go like just as like in the middle between values.
See, that's great. I do the opposite. I used to do a light pink um layer, and now I do a pretty dark burnt sienna. And
Yeah.
it's also to kind of off balance my paint, because I paint in a really cold way
Okay.
naturally. Like I just want to do really cold skin tones. Everything's always so bluish. So I
Right.
started doing a very dark, warm background, and it
Mhm.
helped me kind of compensate my habits by making my skin tones a bit warmer.
Maybe I'll try that and see how it comes out.
A few times I tried to work directly on white, and when you start
That's
the painting,
crazy.
I know, when
That's
you start
crazy.
when you start
Like,
the painting, you're like, "Oh, this looks good," and then the more you add, at the
yeah, yeah,
end, everything is so pale.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like a big no-no. Like I used to do that, and you just lose, you just lose all opportunity you have to make anything pop at the end. Like it's a big no-no.
It just skews your perspective of colors so
Yeah,
much.
I'd rather like start on black if anything, but black is still like I don't like it as much as mid. It's like somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle is best.
Too dark can be tricky, especially if you work with paint that's a little bit transparent. Then
Yeah,
it's gonna be really hard to get coverage.
yeah.
When you trace, not trace, but you use a projector, is it a digital projector, old school with a light?
It's a digital projector that I just connect to my computer, and that's it. Yeah, it's just like I used to. I wouldn't suggest that for like for artists who are not yet like comfortable with like knowing proportions and knowing how to mark and everything. I wouldn't suggest to use the projector because you're actually skipping a little bit of the process, and you need to know what proportions are before you do that. But we live in 2024, and I won't be a purist. I was never a purist, and I just think that we have to use all the tools that we have to make work as efficient as possible, especially with the rest of the world going at a certain pace. You're just going to end up like falling short. And
I always say
Yeah,
that. And at the end of the day, you can do grid, you can do projector, you could be tracing.
yeah,
You end up with the same end result. It's just the amount of time it took you to get there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Um,
would be another thing if I would like paint live models, but photography exists, computers exist, now AI exists. So I haven't played with AI yet. I always want the models to be like real human beings, but I could like play around with it for like backgrounds or accessories or weird monsters or I don't know, like I don't know what I could add.
it's kind of funny. I don't like my people to be real people, but what I do
Okay.
is I take a lot of photograph, a lot of references, and I
Yeah.
combine my references together. So I
Oh
can
wow.
use like the eyes of one person and then the mouth of another person, and I just kind
Okay.
of combine them and create new humans. I'm
That's crazy.
playing.
And you do that just with your imagination? You
Oh
work
no, I do that
almost
with Photoshop.
you do that with Photoshop. Okay, okay. And then but then you need to have the same light source for everyone and everything kind of, so it must be tricky.
Yeah, it's actually not that tricky because of
Okay.
the nature of my work. Like the lighting is pretty neutral. I don't really do
Mm.
hard shadows in my painting. I like a very straight light, and
Yeah.
just because the way I combine the images, if I have really, really harsh shadows, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't work well once I put one on
Right.
another. So yeah, I usually use similar lighting for all my references. So that kind of solved that problem.
That makes sense. Yeah.
When you look at your references when you work, I've seen on some of your social media posts, it's kind of interesting. You put your iPad on the side, right? So you can look
Yeah.
at your reference. That's great. I use my computer, but I should really put a tablet.
It's better to have it like the closest to your eyeball, like to your gaze, because then when you switch in between, you're like more accurate. There's less like back and forth in the end.
My reference, I open it in Photoshop and I use the
Yeah.
Doppler sometimes when I don't know which color it is. Because, it can be tricky sometimes to really see a color within like
Yeah.
your mockup. And I use
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
little Doppler tool and I sometimes
Same.
just kind of select the color. Yeah.
100%. I
Is
do
that
that all the time.
helpful? Yeah.
Yeah, but because sometimes like when you're working, especially skin tone, sometimes you won't know it, but like you think it's like on the bluish scale, and then you press it and it's like orange, and you're like, no. But it's a very, very useful tool actually. Now, actually, I'm gonna start reprinting the photos that I take just to because I think that actually when I'm painting directly from the iPad, and especially now I moved places and it's much, much more brighter during the day, so I have like way more natural light, and I feel like I'm losing some of the the accuracy
Hmm.
when I switch from like because an iPad like it's basically light, so it's not necessarily super accurate when it's time to like transfer the image from your brain iPad to the canvas. So I'm gonna start like printing them again. I think I have like a little print shop right next, so it's perfect, and they print like big format, and then you can really just have it like completely accurately because you have it in person. So it's the same light source,
Right,
and
right. Yeah, because there's some colors that you can see on a screen that
yeah,
cannot be transferred in real life. But yeah, I've
yeah,
seen that from other artists that they actually print the
yeah,
mock-up or their sketch or their digital sketch, and then they print it and they kind of hold it next to the painting. You can really compare your colors this way as well. You can even
yeah.
have your brush. You can take your brush and kind of put it on the drawing as well.
Exactly. And you can put little dots on the paint, like to just see if you have like
The right colors.
the real color. But I feel also maybe like even my paintings, they look digital because I'm using the iPad. So I don't know. Like I don't know if it's gonna maybe change make it like less digital looking. So we'll see.
Interesting,
So
interesting.
to
I
be
wonder if
continued.
it's gonna change the saturation that you
Yeah.
use or the pigment that you use.
Some of my first paintings, I did not have an iPad that I could like use. Like I had like a like desk computer, so I couldn't like move it around. So I had to print my photos, and I feel like it was more accurate. So I'm gonna start doing that again and see if I can like improve, scale up a little bit in realism.
I'm curious to see how that's gonna go. I'm gonna be curious to see your evolution transition when you start that new technique. When you get ready to paint, let's say you're like, okay, let's start a few hours in the studio. What
Yeah.
do you prep? What do you put in front of you? So I assume in your setup you have paint, brushes, rag, medium. What are the tools that you line up before you start your session?
I have my how do you call it's disposable palette,
Hmm.
because I work with like so many palettes at the time, like at the same time, like let's because I work by section. So let's say like if, for example, like if I'm gonna be doing the sky, I'm gonna have a palette just for the sky. Then I'm gonna have a palette for the skin tone. Then I'm gonna have a palette for every section, like that is basically sectionable. Um, and then from there, I'm gonna work on a section, then put it in the freezer. Oh, also, this is a good trick. You put it in the freezer. Maybe I've even learned that from you. I'm not sure. You taught me everything.
Maybe,
Um,
apparently.
so yeah, so I'll be using and I'll be just like stacking them up in the freezer. And then once it dries, then I'm gonna go over it and like do little touch-ups. The skies normally I only do one layer and it's done. But skin tones, I'm most likely going to be doing two layers, like wait till it dries and then another layer, like just to go really deeper into the details. Same with the fabric, because once it's time to put like the little highlights or like the little stitches or like the deeper shadows, then it's nice to like go over it. And then it's just gonna be like just I have my glass palette on the side, which is where I mix everything. Then I'll transfer it onto the palette. So I have that on my side with all my little paints put like on a little wall where like they're all like displayed by color, like blues, yellows, and etc. And then I'll have my brushes, but I don't use that many brushes. I use, but for the skies, then I'm gonna be using like bigger, wider brush, and I'm also gonna be using like big fluff brush, like
Yeah,
makeup brush to
my
fluff
brush.
the clouds. Yeah, cloud is the nicest thing to paint. Actually, it's like you block it, and it doesn't need to look like anything. And once you start fluffing, it just like it just
Some
appears out of nowhere. Like it's the nicest. It's my favorite.
Bob Ross magic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Happy little
Definitely love it. I even
accents.
have the hair.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that you said I think is interesting is so you mix your paint in one palette, and when it's
Yeah.
mixed, you take those little piles and you transfer them really cleanly on your
Hmm.
palette. And I've seen how you set up your palette because you posted it
Yeah.
online before. I did a lot of stalking, by the way, and I just look at
Yeah.
everything you did.
Good. I
You
love a
did
pervert.
you you did like you do like 36. I counted on some of them, like there's 36 colors for your
Is
skin
there?
tones.
Yeah, I'm a bit
Yeah.
crazy. I become like a little OCD sometimes. Basically, how I do it, I go like as dark as possible, and then I'll add in white whatever I'm gonna be removing each time. So, and then I just do that continuously, and then it just ends up like being like about, I don't know, a row of 10 or 12.
Yes, I counted them.
Uh, oh wow.
I,
Yeah, like yeah.
I was I was on your I was looking at a picture of you, and I was like, one, two,
You're not the
three.
only one. You're not the only one that like other painters are just like, why 12? I'm like, yo, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I don't
yeah. It's a lot of
like I
midtones.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot of midtones. I just don't like to have to be doing any like mixing work while I'm actually painting, because like then I have to think about that on top of like thinking about what I should be putting on the canvas. So I like everything to be like laid out already ready to use, and just like put it like it's basically just like doing a puzzle at this point. It's just you put
Right.
the right color at the right spot.
So nothing is taking you out of the zone while you start
Yeah.
working. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Do you have a specific brand of brush that you use?
No, I just use like whatever I find at the store. Like I buy a lot of my brushes at Omar Dessert and Kama Pigment. You should like Kama Pigment is like a little store in Montreal. I'm obsessed. That's all I buy. Everything else, I swear to God, doesn't come close in like pigmentation. Like they're so pigmented, and like the just the colors are like just so satisfying. It's my ultimate favorite, and they have like neon colors as well for oils, which is like super rare. You can't really find that.
It's their own brand of all the art supplies.
It's like a little Harry Potter like store. Like they have like real pigment, like they have walls, and I swear to God, you have to like if you come to Montreal, I have to take you. It's like it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like a tiny little boutique, and they make their own paint there. And they're the ones who actually made my linen canvas. Actually, they also offer that. Yeah, yeah, they're amazing.
Oh, I'm very jealous. I love those kind of witchy
Yeah,
places.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you buy any type of brushes. Do you like synthetic or you like natural hair brushes? Like, do you like a
Since
really soft brush or do you
really,
like,
really soft,
okay.
really soft, because I'm not looking for texture at all. I'm looking for it to be like as flat as possible. I even like whenever I even on my skin tones, like everything, I always go above it with the soft brush to
Mhm.
like lay everything flat. They're
Yes,
not even meant for oil. Yeah.
that's what I use as well.
Mm.
I use synthetic brush that are made for watercolor or acrylic or
Yeah.
I don't like hard bristles either.
No.
Yeah, softness is the way to go.
Yeah.
What is the most expensive art supply you ever invested in? Have you ever splurged in something and you're like, oh, that's a big budget item?
Whenever I buy a cobalt blue, I'm like, ooh, but it's worth it. In the end, I've never actually looked at the prices so much because like my just the work is what comes first, and I'll deal with the repercussions later. Or maybe yeah, maybe my how do you call that? Mon chevalet. How do you say that?
Easel, your easel.
My easel,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still not like the most expensive one. Like I spent like maybe 400 on it, but yeah, I wanna get like the big one, like the I'm sure you know about it. It's like the one like that has wheels and like
Yeah.
yeah. Is
That
that what you have?
yes, I used to have a
Yeah.
traditional one that are called, I guess, plein air easel with the three legs. And
Okay. No.
and this was not stable and I could not put
No.
any
No. No.
heavy
No.
pieces. So this one at the
Yeah.
back is I bought it on Amazon and it was affordable. Uh
Okay.
it has wheels on it. So this piece is about
Nice.
45 pounds.
Okay.
So I had to move it on wheel and it's the best.
Yeah.
It works so
Yeah.
well. I used
Yeah.
to work on my table because I used to do smaller pieces. They say the
Yeah.
further you go in your art career, the bigger your ego, the bigger the pieces. So, but now I'm going bigger because I have a big space to fill in December.
Nice.
But when I used to work really small, I would just work on a table. But now I just need a big easel.
Yeah, I've never worked on a table. I don't like that. Like I just like to have things like in front of me, actually.
Do you work standing up or do you sit down usually?
No, I don't stand up. Like sometimes like if I'm doing the clouds, because like I'll have to like move back and forth, but no, I'm sitting down.
Yeah, I'm an office chair
Yeah.
person, so I can just kind of twist. It's very
Yeah, exactly.
physical. It can be a
I
very
have
physical
I have
job.
a cool chair though. I don't know if you can see it there. It's like my mom's old.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's like an old
Yeah.
school principal chair.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's very nice, and it's all like there's like little paint marks on it. It's gonna be worth something at auction one day.
I love when stuff gets covered in paint.
Yeah.
When you see pictures of Francis Bacon's studio, I don't know if you ever seen pictures of his studio, but it was literally paint on all the walls, all the floors. Like it was just
Yeah.
junk. It was like a hoarder of paint leftovers. It's disgusting, and I love
Yeah.
it so
Yeah.
much.
I wish I could do that, but I work from home, so
I know. I work from
yeah.
home too, and
Yeah.
I covered the carpet. This room had carpet in it, so I covered it
Yeah.
with plastic and another carpet I can get dirty. Do you mix your paint with any medium?
I do not. That's
Ooh.
how perfect those paints from Cama Pigment are actually. They're
Ooh.
like they're the perfect texture. The only thing I use is just a little bit of oil, which I'll like dip my brush in, or but I'm not using any medium. Except if I'm like glazing, then I'll just use like liquid or something. But
Mhm.
the regular stuff, nothing fancy.
Yeah, liquid dries fast as well. So if you glaze, I
Yeah.
guess that's pretty useful. Have you ever started a painting and you realize halfway that you hated it?
Like all the time. I just finish it, I guess, and then I'm just like, well, it's not mine to have. Like for me, like my paintings are, they don't belong to me. Like so it's just like someone will like it, maybe. And some of the paintings I hate the most is like the people love the most. So I'm just like, yeah, take it. I don't have this attachment to my paintings. I'm like, get the out of my studio. Like I need space. Like I just want to get it done with and move on to the next thing. So
I'm the same way because I feel when maybe when you start, you get really attached to
yeah,
certain pieces because you attach to the progress that you've made. You're like,
yeah,
oh, this is my best piece yet, and you get attached to it. But I find
yeah,
once you start moving out a lot of pieces, when they move out of the studio and you start
yeah,
selling them, you don't
yeah.
get attached as much, right?
You get attached to the money you're making.
That's a healthy attachment. You get attached to the
Yeah, well, the thing is like it's the money you're making gives you more time to create like more complex pieces. So every time like I scale up a little bit in price, I'm gonna be working on. I'm gonna take that money to like invest the time I need to take to do something a little bit more complex. So yeah, I'm all about selling all the time and like getting on to the next thing and
I agree.
getting better.
I agree 100%. How do you clean your brushes?
Honestly, just with soap. And what I do is I dip them in oil and then I put them in the fridge and then I reuse them. Just dish soap.
Linseed oil?
Right now, what am I using? I think I'm using walnut or
Walnut?
something.
And then you just use like dish soap, like
Yeah,
Dawn?
or like any like a good soap bar, like
Okay.
very like yeah, and then I'll just clean it with that. I don't use thinner or anything.
Yeah, me neither. I try
Yeah.
to eliminate chemicals in my practice.
Unless you were like an abstract painter who needs like to like clean up quickly and just like or I don't know, like I don't think it's useful for me because I'm using the same brushes for every section, so I'm not gonna even wash them every time I put them away. If I'm still working on a painting, I'm gonna keep them like in the in the fridge, just like dipped in oil for the entire time I'm doing that. I'm working on the painting, and then after that, I'll clean them like once I'm done with the painting.
When I'm not done with them, I just put them in a plastic bag and I shove it in the freezer. And
Yeah,
before I do the next session, I just let them thaw for
yeah,
an hour
yeah,
and then
yeah.
use them again.
It saves you a lot of time, and also the less you wash them, the better it is. Actually, it gives them a longer lifespan.
Also, I'm just being lazy. So,
Yeah, but that's perfect. Everybody's winning.
I like the painting. I don't like the cleaning part of the business.
Yeah,
I want to talk for a second about your edges. We talked about your neon color, the pigment you used before, but
yeah.
do you paint your edges before you work on the painting or you paint your edges after? And I'm asking,
After.
see, I'm asking because I paint my edges after, and every time I do, I think, oh man, I should have done this before. Because then
Why?
because I always have to not go over the painting or over the edge when I do my edges, and I'm like, well,
Well,
if I
then you
would
clean that cleans it up like real good. What do you mean? You're doing it the right way. Keep on doing it that way. So what I do for mine, like it's really, really neon, right? Like look
it
at that,
is,
how
yes.
bright it is.
I
And
love
like
when you photograph your work and you can see the glow of
it
the neon
glows.
on the wall.
Like
Yes.
I'm gonna show you after what I'm using for neon. It's like it's a gouache.
It's a
That
gouache.
yeah, it's a gouache. Like wait, let me
Really?
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's okay. Now you just surprised me because gouache is a water-based
yeah.
pigment.
So I'm basically putting a layer of gesso just to clean everything up because it needs to be like white, white, white as white as possible under for the like the glow to do its magic. And then I'm using this thing here,
So
which
what's
I think like they're pretty expensive. Like, and I think it's Japanese. I think there's Holbein. I'm not sure.
on
Oh
Google?
yeah. Oh, there. This I buy also. They have it at Cama Pigment, so I buy everything there. It's so smooth because I don't like the gouache texture. It gives me like chills. Like I hate gouache, but this is like it's like an acrylic. It's
Right.
weird. It behaves and it dries like super fast. It behaves like a gouache, so it dries as fast as a gouache, but the texture is like super smooth. It's like just like acrylics. So I'm not sure what they're doing with that.
That's some witchcraft.
Yeah,
Do you finish it with something on top of it, or you just
no, I
perfect as
just
it is?
leave it as is. Yeah.
Love it. What about your painting? Do you varnish your finished work?
I don't have like it. I have to wait 6 months to varnish, otherwise it's gonna crack. So like it's not something I can afford to do, so I do not varnish them. But like I always tell my collectors, like if you want to get it varnished, I would recommend so. But no, I don't varnish them.
So
Is it bad?
uh, it's not.
Am I
It's
in
not.
trouble?
No, you're not in trouble. Varnishing does protect the oil
Yeah,
paint, and what it also does is if the painting needs to be dusted or cleaned up, you can kind of do so lightly with like a rag or something without
yeah,
damaging the actual painting.
yeah,
If you use a traditional varnish, you do have to wait 6 months up to a year, depending of the thickness of the paint. If you paint really
yeah.
flat, it could be like 3 months. But you can use something that's called retouching varnish that
Okay,
can be applied as soon as the paint is dry to the touch. And
okay.
that is not a permanent bond. So you're supposed to revarnish again, like let's say a year later if you use a
So
retouching varnish.
scared whenever I get so scared whenever I'm varnishing. So I think that's what, like, I find it stressful. I'm like, am I gonna mess it up? Like, what's gonna happen? Is it gonna crack?
I use a Gamvar by Gamblin, and this is a varnish that can be used as soon as it's dry to the touch. You can use
Okay,
it, and it will protect your painting. You can apply it fairly quickly, and the paint is still able to oxidize through that
okay,
varnish,
okay,
which
okay,
is
okay.
what you want your oil paint to do.
Yeah.
So now, obviously, I have a question. So, did you have bad experiences with varnish in the past? So, what happened?
Yeah. Well, when I first started, when I switched from acrylics to oils, like I didn't like I'm someone who just like tries and like sees what's gonna happen. Yes, it did happen, but like it's fine. It was just like pieces that I like no one ever saw. So that's fine. But no, after that, it's just that like once I'm finished with a painting, it's normally just going straight to the gallery or being sold. So I don't really have time to wait.
Mhm.
I don't really do my homework properly. I'm just like, I'm a bad student. I didn't wait the time I was supposed to wait because I was like, no, it's not true. It's not gonna, what do you mean it's gonna crack? And then I just do it and I'm like, oh, right. Um, so that's me. That's how I learn. So
That's all right.
yeah.
That's called experimenting, and you're supposed to do that. I think you'll be very happy with a Gamvar by Gamblin product, which you can
Nice.
varnish when it's dry to the touch and never had any issues. I had issues with the matte one, but the gloss one is like super easy.
I'm not a fan of matte anyway, so I would rather go with a gloss finish.
And a varnish really makes your dark color pop
Yeah.
on your pieces
And
as
not only that, it also like flattens the surface, like where it's gonna be like there's gonna be patches where it's gonna be super matte, and then
well. Mhm.
when you look at the painting in different lights, then it looks weird. So the
Right.
varnish helps with like flattening everything equally.
Yeah, it does unify the finish. I mean, you
Mm.
could also oil it out. Do you do that sometimes?
No, I didn't know. Like you
So
could just put a little bit of oil like on top of everything.
yes. So some people
Oh.
say that it's even better before you varnish. I don't do it. I just varnish straight
Mm.
on it. But some people say if you want a really, really unified finish, you can take a little bit of oil on a brush and you go over your entire surface. It's called oiling
Okay.
it out. And then
Yeah.
you have like a uniform
Okay. I'll do that
finish.
actually. Yeah, I didn't know.
Um, we
I
learn
learned so much from you.
everything. That's that's good. I love it. I'm gonna blush. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I'm teaching. Uh, I want to ask a quick question about shipping paintings because that's something I haven't talked about with previous guests. What are your shipping secrets? Because shipping artwork is a business on its own. Do you
Yeah.
protect your pieces a certain way before you ship them if you have to send them to a gallery that's far away?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I saran wrap them, Then I'll put bubble wrap, a lot of bubble wrap. Then I'm using, so okay, so first of all, I only use DHL because they're just like efficient and no, like they're just easy to work with. Like the process online is easier than all the other ones that I've worked with. And also I created like a business account which like cuts the shipping costs down to like almost 50%. So that's great. And they're very responsive, like they're easy to work with. And then to avoid jacking up my shipping prices, I'm not going to use like wood crates
Mm-hmm.
because it's just it's first of all, like what am I, like Bob the constructor? Like no, like it's like what? No. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm getting those I don't know if I have it in here. I think it's in my locker. So I go to like Rona, because I don't know if you have that over there, but
A
like it's just
hardware store.
any, yeah, yeah. And they have like those big sheets of like it's plastic cardboard. It's made exactly like cardboard, but it's plastic. It's super easy to cut. And then I'll just build my box with that and like tons of duct tape. And it's just I've never had any issue. It's super light, super durable. And the box is actually like if if I'm comfortable taking the box after and like throwing it without, like, this is how I know that like okay, my shipping is okay, because you can't trust anyone, right, with that. So
I
if I'm
agree.
comfortable just throwing that in the back of my car, like that should be good.
I think you made two very valid and important point. The first one is your weight, because shipping is expensive when it's heavy. So
Yeah,
keeping even your packing material as light as possible is
100%. Yeah.
really good. And I think the other good point is throwing it. If you feel comfortable throwing the box
Yeah.
yourself, that's a good point. Because they handle those things not
Well, yeah.
carefully.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Yeah,
are.
it's bad. I ship pieces where they arrive with literally forklift holes through the box, through the
No.
painting. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
but that's because you're using cardboard box.
yes, yeah,
Okay, I gotta put you onto my like the plastic, because I used to do that, and I have had like experiences where like like the corner was chipped or something like that.
right.
Um, but yeah, but that's yeah, there was a wood panel actually that happened to be damaged. But no. For the boxes, like the plastic one, like it's almost impossible to pierce unless you're literally taking a knife. Like it's
Amazing.
and
Yeah,
it's a little bit it's more expensive than cardboard, obviously, but like it's gonna cost me around like to ship like a big painting like 30 by 40. I'm gonna need like one sheet, which is about like 50 to $70. Then bubble wrap, it's gonna cost me about like $100 of like like shipping
material.
material. But it's efficient, and I'm saving up on the weight.
Yeah, and you're saving up by protecting your painting as well.
Oh yeah,
That's one of the reasons
100%.
why I started painting on panels. So I stretch canvas over panel now. And one of the reasons
Okay.
why I started doing that is because of shipping problems, because I find
Mhm.
like shipping canvases is always a bit risky. So now I feel like it's way more sturdy. Like the painting
Yeah,
itself is sturdier, therefore I'm more comfortable shipping. But
yeah,
my shipping cost is more expensive because it's
yeah,
very heavy.
yeah, and it's also panels are more expensive. I only can find this material at Rona. Like
Mhm.
I haven't found it anywhere else. But it's so easy to like the cutting and the building is like a works like a charm.
Amazing. All right, we'll look into it. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to look into after this. I love it.
Yeah, lots
Um,
of homeworks.
if art supplies were free for life, what's the one
Yeah.
product that you would hoard shamelessly?
What would it be? I'm not sure. I don't really shy out on anything. I buy the expensive stuff if I want it. Maybe just like cobalt blue is one. Like small tubes is like 30 or $40, which is a little crazy, but like
What are
so probably that. What would be yours then?
probably paint? I mean,
Okay.
uh, I don't. So I get my brushes through Trekell, and I love them, but they're pretty affordable, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm always
Yeah.
thinking if I could get something free for life, you should pick something that's very expensive.
Yeah.
But I
Do
guess
you go through a lot of paint, like a lot of tubes?
I mean, I paint pretty flat, so I don't use that much paint.
Yeah,
However, when I'm done working with my palette, when I'm done a painting, if there's paint left on my palette, I throw it away.
yeah,
I'll keep the
same.
paint for one painting, but once I start a new painting, I reset with a new
Yeah,
palette. So there's always a bit
same.
of waste when it comes to paint.
Yeah,
I guess what I paint I use the most is titanium white
yeah, same,
and then burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is probably my favorite color because it's the base for my skin tone.
same.
My base skin tone is basically burnt sienna mixed with white, and then I
Yeah,
go and change it from there.
yeah,
So if I want something free for life, well, actually, I should pick the most expensive stuff. So it would probably be panels.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Maybe it
There
would
you
be
go.
linen panels
Yeah,
actually,
let's change our answers to
or
panels.
shipping costs,
Free shipping costs for life.
free travels, free work travels. Okay, no, I'm kidding.
For shipping, actually, I usually use a third party company. When I was in Canada, I first used Chit Chat and then I used Stallion Express, which is like a third party company that ships for you. So you get better rates with any other company. And now that I'm
Okay,
working from the US right now, I'm using a pirate ship, like pirate as like rar, pirate,
yeah,
that's my pirate. Pirate ship, and it's a third party company. I
okay,
feel like I'm saving a lot doing that
okay.
instead of going
Oh
direct.
yeah,
Shipping is
you
such
see,
a big expense
yeah,
when it comes to
yeah,
art. People don't think about it, but it's a big budget.
yeah.
What is the least favorite question that someone can ask you at an art show?
Well, where do you get your inspiration from? uh, like honestly, it's like the widest question you can ask someone. It's not a question in itself. It's just like I find it's like the laziest question you can ask an artist. It's like, where do you get your inspiration? It's like I don't know, like what's in front of me. I don't know. It's just such a hard question to answer, and it's not very like it's not actually directing your answer. It's just so wide. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this question? Like, it's
I,
a hard one.
I think it's because people that don't really have a creativity driven mindset
Mm,
don't get inspired that easily,
right.
right? They don't,
Yeah.
get in their shower and suddenly have flashes of images or go to bed
Right.
and think like, ooh, I should paint this, or wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh, this is a good idea. I don't
Yeah.
think they have those moments of inspiration. And I think that's
Right.
why they puzzled by the mind of
Okay.
people
Wait,
that
wait.
can
Okay.
actually
That's
do
a
that.
fair question. I don't know why I
Yeah.
like to be so
No.
mean about it.
Oh no. You're not mean. I mean, it's almost like a how long did it take you or you can even draw a stick figure?
I know, but that's not a question. But like this, yeah. But it's okay. But you know what? Or like people who say like, "Oh, I could never like," but it's like anything else. It's like if you wanted to and you like you just that's all you wanted to do with your life and you started and you put your head to it, you could. Like it's not I wasn't born with like skills. Like you want to get good at something and then you do get good because like you obsess over it. So it's like anything else. Like it's like telling a lawyer like, "Oh, I would never like I don't have that talent."
Right.
Like it's not a like okay, some of it is talent obviously because you can only be as good as your taste and that's a fact. So if you have shitty taste and you just don't know how to read the zeitgeist, then like okay, maybe not for you. But it's also like a lot of it is just like practice and skills. So
I agree. They
yeah,
say it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at anything, right? You just need to
yeah,
put your 10,000 hours
yeah,
in. Yeah.
exactly.
What's your ratio of, oh my God, I'm a genius days to, oh my God, I suck. What am I even doing days?
Oh my God. They're about okay, I have neutral days. I have days where I'm manic, like absolutely manic. I'll be actively like think I'm an absolute genius. And I'll have days where I'm just like, should I just do music instead? Like, should I just like give up? Uh, Ratio is like it goes the dip goes as far down as it goes up, and the rest is like about there. So it's half half almost.
I think that's a fine balance. I
Yeah,
think that's how you push yourself to keep going.
yeah. And also, you don't actually. It's not healthy also to always think that you're the shit and like you're because then there's no room for improvement. So you need those days where you're just like, I hate everything, and then you go through your Instagram, you're like, I'm a fraud. Like, what is this?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Any materials that you started using and you realized that that specific product or tool actually improved your technique?
Well, I guess when I switched from acrylics to oils, that was
Mhm.
the biggest. Yeah, that was my biggest flex. Like I went from like student level painting to actually like artist like level
Right,
quality. Yeah.
right. What made you decide to switch?
I was just like not I was not where I wanted to be in terms of like quality and also in terms of like I wanted to improve the work, and I was just like I plateaued, and I was like I don't know what else to do with acrylics to improve my work. So like I don't know if I should switch, and maybe that would help. Um, and then as soon as I did, like it's like something clicked in my head, and I just like I started working differently also because I wasn't. I had to basically premeditate everything I would do, like meaning like skin tones. Like this is how I started like doing my palettes like that. Because you can't just like go over and then like wait for it to dry and then like just like half-ass it a little bit. There's no room for that. You really have to put every mark is important. So this is when like structurally the way that my brain reframed like how to do a painting like completely shifted, and then I had to be like more methodical, and then this is what the result of it is, that like it just elevated like the rest of the work. It just made
Mhm.
it like better.
Yeah, I really like your approach when you paint, which seems to be a combination of wet on wet or a la prima, and then you add your details on top of that, which totally makes sense now when I look at your painting. Because one thing that I really appreciate about your work is your little bright highlights. I think you're very skilled at putting on your highlights, which sounds so silly, but it is a thing. Like your little white highlights are so magical.
I'm a pervert for highlights. Like
Like I love it.
I love a glossy skin.
Yeah, and I even like the
Yeah.
little highlights on the teeth and the rim of the gum. I noticed those little things, and I think they're so
Mm,
beautifully done. And I
thank
think
you.
it just makes sense now because of the way you work. I feel like you have more of a wet on wet approach when it comes to the form, and then you go in and you do your highlights as a secondary layer, right?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
that's magical.
Well, depending if I can actually put it and like because white, like when you're using only white, it's thicker, so it's not gonna be adhering to the like wet paint as good as like when it's dry. So that's why I do it like at the end most likely.
Yeah, I think that's genius. It's
Thank you.
a good combo of different methods of working.
It's probably because I in my head like I'm still like it's with acrylics you would do that, right?
Right,
So I
right.
think that's might be where it comes from.
Yeah. I think this is something that's also very amazing about how artists come up with their formula or their final process is the road you took to get there defines what your style is at the end.
Yeah,
I
100%.
said, look at your work and I know there's something special about those highlights, but now it just makes sense because the way you make them probably comes from your background with acrylic paint, which to me is just one of
Yeah.
mind-blowing moment where the source of the final product comes from like years and years of just trying stuff, right?
And trying to get like basically I was trying to get what I wanted to get with oils, but with acrylics, and I could never get there.
Mhm.
So yeah, but yeah, I guess yeah, it happened to do that. But yeah,
You're just a genius. You just I
I'm
think
just a genius.
you're just a casual genius.
Casually a genius.
Roxy, if people want to find you on the interweb, how do they
Yeah.
find you?
They go on Instagram. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, I have trouble like updating my website. Like I've done my website maybe like 10 years ago. It like I mean, if you want to buy my prints, you can go on my website, which is roxyperoxyde.com with both Y's in Roxy and Peroxide. And then otherwise it's just Instagram or TikTok. I'm not on Facebook. TikTok and Instagram is where it happens. And Instagram, my stories, like sometimes I'll get like drunk with my friends and I'll like post like wild shit, and then I'm just gonna be, oh no, like delete. So it's fun. You can get a little window of like into my world and my sense of humor and all. I don't really shy out for these things.
That's it for today.
Yes,
You, Roxy. Thank you for
it
being
was
with
such a
us.
pleasure.
And people go find Roxy on
Yes, go
TikTok
find
and
me.
Instagram and her website, which she will
Perfect.
refresh shortly.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
One day.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.